Howdy friends and neighbours, welcome back to the War Thunder Ground Forces closed beta with the mighty Jingles today. Not so much time in the garage, we're going to jump straight into a few games. We're going to be having a look at how ground and air interact with each other. Trying to figure out some of the game mechanics that we can see happening in the battles and what implications they have for the way the game is likely to progress further into the beta or the beta, since it seems to wind up so many of you when I say beta, tough, deal with it. And having a look at some of the Russian tanks. So, without any further ado, let's jump straight in. Oh, no, let's not jump straight in. Sorry. Somebody had asked, just very, very quickly, to look at the various different customization levels of the tanks. Cosmetic customizations, the decals, the camo patterns. They're not actually in the beta yet. As you can see, I've put none of these. I mean, these are already in the game. They work on tanks as well. There are no specific tank decals, if you like, that you can decorate your tank with yet. These are all the ones that you've already unlocked in the Air Forces side of the game. As for camouflage patterns, oh, I stand corrected. There you go. There are some camouflage patterns. Oh, we'll have to investigate this further. Winter camo. Yep, there we go. Let's have a look at some of the other tanks. I didn't see any for the Germans. Let's try the KV-1. Yeah, not all of them have any. KV doesn't. T-34 does. How about the T-26? A couple of people were saying, oh, how the hell do you get the T-26? Because, well, there in the research tree, it's not available. Well, it's a reserve. It doesn't show up in the research tree, as you can see. Yeah, we have the 3 tanks there. But, let me deselect it. Pick something else, a reserve aircraft. It's there. It's available as a reserve tank. It's bizarre, but, it's there, it's in the game. You can select the T-26. Oh, isn't it cute? You can select the T-26 as a tank to drive. Let's quickly have a look and see if I can find any camo patterns for the German tanks as well, now that we know that some actually exist. You see, learning by doing. Nothing for the Flak Panzer. Let's try the Panzer IV, F2. No camo patterns for the... Doesn't seem to be any for the Germans. But, testing camo patterns is not what the closed beta is about. 2 of the tanks. We've got the Panzer IIc. That doesn't have any. And the only other one is the Panzer IVc. And that doesn't have any camo patterns available either. So it looks like the T-34 is the only tank in the game currently. Well, I say in the game, in the test, because this isn't the game yet. Looks like the T-34 is the only ground vehicle in the test that currently has a camo pattern. Apparently, you are going to be able to select the various different levels of rust and dirt that cover the vehicle. Those will be customizable camouflage schemes, if you like, different skins that you can unlock for your tank. So you can have a parade ground tank if you want, or one like this that looks like it's seen some action. So there you go, hope that answered the question. Now, let's jump into a game, show you how aircraft interact, on the limited level that's available, how aircraft are going to interact with the ground vehicles. So, flying with the Germans, to begin with. Of the 3 German reserve aircraft, only one of them can carry bombs. They can carry 6 of them, but they're only 10-kilo bombs. So you're not going to be knocking out any KV-1s with these little things. And that's really not the focus of this phase of the test. It's mostly about the tanks that are available. And having you can fly aircraft. And I think they put the reserve aircraft in purely so you could see this. Look at the size of the map if you're flying an aircraft. And there are all kinds of air-to-ground objectives. Bombing points, the enemy airfield, all that sort of stuff that have got nothing to do with the tanks. You can see that shallow, not really a valley, but right there, right in front of the aircraft there, that Damn, that's a lot of flak. That is where all the ground combat takes place. Right? The map is huge. The ground combat is limited to a small area of the map, where your ground attack planes, and maybe your bombers as well, can go to... Geez, this flak is pretty accurate. Can go to, you know, hassle the enemy tanks. Now, the ground forces can make it easier for the aircraft by taking out those anti-aircraft guns. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to locate enemy artillery, because the artillery unlock that's available for light and some of the medium tanks the effectiveness of it is based on how much artillery remains on the map. So the artillery, there are ground target or NPC artillery units, and if the ground targets all the aircraft take out those artillery positions, then the effectiveness of your artillery barrages that you can call in is reduced. But I was completely unable... I'm trying to get some bombs away on that guy. Completely unable to... Ooh, wow. Damn you, Flak Panzer. Spoiling my fun. Shot down. There he is, facing beta. Oh, yes, you got me, yeah. But yes, I was unable to locate from the air any of these artillery positions. So, I was trying to help my ground forces with the aircraft, and just all I can see, the only ground targets I can see are the tanks that have been spotted by our other tanks and the anti-aircraft gun emplacements. So, it'd be interesting to see exactly, because and there's another thing, getting back to the spotting mechanics, I was under the impression that you would be able to use aircraft as reconnaissance to spot ground targets for, you know, your forces, but I don't know if it just doesn't seem to happen, and you're going to see me flying right over some unspotted tanks driven by players, and they're not being designated as targets. You know, the name of the vehicle and the player driving the vehicle does not appear over the vehicle, even though I'm shooting them and I'm passing within 50 meters of these tanks. They're just not being lit up as a target. So the interaction between ground and air at the moment, this is all subject to change, is pretty limited, because you only have reserve aircraft, and only one of each of the three reserve aircraft available can carry bombs, and the bombs are pretty shit. You know, this thing, well, not this thing, the previous aircraft could only carry 6 10-kilogram bombs, and you pretty much have to score direct hits on very thinly armoured tanks to... Well, I've never managed to knock a tank out from the air yet. I've hit them a few times, as you're going to see in this video, but I've done some damage, but I've never managed to knock one out. Aside from the bombs, the reserve aircraft only have 7.92mm machine guns, which is fine for taking out flak panzers, but flak panzers are designed to take out aircraft. So it's, you know, it's dangerous going after flak panzers. So there's a couple of targets that have been spotted, but not by me. And you're going to see how completely ineffective your machine guns actually are. But, you know, that's as it should be. That's why tanks were created, to protect troops from machine guns. So, don't really have a problem with that. Now, there, in the road. You see him? Right there. Enemy tank. 2 of them, in fact. Flew right over 2 of them. Flew within 20 meters of one of them, and he was not lit up as a target. So, at the moment, at this early stage of the test, you are not able to spot targets from the air with aircraft. You can see them, but that doesn't mean you spot them, light them up as a target. There's a Black Panzer over there. Let's see if I can machine gun him. I try to pull up. Oh, and I'm hit. And I left that too late to pull up anyway. So, yeah. I'm dead again. You can definitely kill flak panzers with machine guns in these reserve aircraft. I've had it done to me. They're very, very lightly armoured. Machine guns will take them out. Right, let's jump into a tank. Shoot some stuff up. I have definitely noticed, since it's been a couple of days since I played, the test server isn't up all the time. And I have definitely noticed differences in the way these tanks handle since the first video that I did, well, the last video that I did, which was only a couple of days old. And well, I don't want to call it a complaint, my observation that the handling of the tanks seemed very, very light doesn't really seem to be the case anymore. I mean, I've never driven a tank in real life, and I've never even seen, other than at military shows, tanks being driven in real life. Oh, watch this. This is... okay, here we go. Target undamaged. I hit this guy 4 or 5 times. And then he takes me out with 1 shot. Now, this is not a complaint. This is another observation. This is what you get with more realistic damage models. If you want to knock a tank out with 1 shot, you have to hit a tank somewhere that will take it out with 1 shot. Right, if you keep hitting unessential components, as I must have been doing when I was shooting at that Stug, you'll damage him, but he can carry on fighting. And his 1 shot at me penetrated the fighting compartment of the tank. The shell ricocheted around inside, killed all the crew, knocked my tank out. And that's all it takes. Because that's all it would take to knock a tank out. There are going to be lots and lots and lots of 1-shot kills in this game. That's the way it's supposed to work. And it works in this game because you're not limited to just the 1 tank. I mean, if the same realistic damage modelling was in place in a game like World of Tanks, it would be shit. Because you only have 1 tank to play with. Not so in War Thunder. Yeah, my tank got knocked out. Well done, good shooting. Jump into another tank. Get your revenge. Now, as I was saying, it definitely feels like something's happened to tweak the way the tank's handling works. Because they definitely don't feel as if they're driving around in 6 inches of mud the way they did previously. And it's, you know, it could be that they have actually tweaked the physics in this current version of the test that's running. And it could also be because I've unlocked some upgrades for the suspension and the tracks and the brakes and all that sort of thing, but I think it's a combination of both. Because I did have some upgrades unlocked in the last time I played on the test server, and it didn't really seem to make that much difference to the handling of the machines that I could, you know, notice from the limited playtime that I had available. Either way, the tanks, and again, as I said, I don't know how a tank is supposed to handle in real life, but it just feels better in the current version of the test. Got myself a kill. Hey. That's the very... oh, it's a Flak Panzer. Oh, he's so dead. Yes. Yeah. People were also asking whether or not armor angling works. Yeah, absolutely. 100% does. You're going to notice when I'm firing and hitting the tanks that you can occasionally see the sort of wire diagram outline of the tank's internal components. I'm assured that that's just a bug. You know, it's not a game feature. It's not supposed to happen. And I'm sure that will be ironed out in future versions of the test server. So here we go, bit of off-road. And you'll see what I mean immediately. The way the tanks move is just so different all of a sudden. And again, while I have no clue how a tank is really supposed to move off-road, it just feels better. I'm not constantly having to fight the controls to keep the thing travelling straight. Now, whether or not that's realistic, I couldn't tell you. But as far as gameplay goes, it just feels like you're more in control of the vehicle that you're driving. Although I was getting used to it the way it was before. You just don't have to be as heavy-handed on the controls as you are in a game like World of Tanks. Now, the last time you saw me come this way, I was defeated by a tree. I'm wise to your tricks this time, tree. You're not going to get me twice. There we go. And pulling a manoeuvre, I mean, that wasn't a particularly radical manoeuvre, but the last time I played, if I'd turned the tank while going downhill at speed like that, I would have skidded all over the map. And it just doesn't happen now, so they've definitely done something to the physics. For the better. The tanks do feel like they're moving with a noticeable sense of momentum and inertia. You know, they feel heavier than they used to. And there's some nice little unlocks for the Panzer IV F2, which is going to come in handy. It's not bad. I don't, and again, this is another thing I don't know. I don't know whether or not the pace of upgrades has been accelerated for the test. But I don't seem to have any problems unlocking modules on these tanks. And I'm not doing particularly well at all. I only got 2 kills in that entire game. So, let's try that again. Right, this time I don't want to be weighed down by any bombs on the first aircraft that I fly out, in case there are any enemy aircraft that I need to deal with first. So, no bombs. And again, I'm just going to try to be of what use I can to my ground forces in this aircraft. Looking for those artillery positions. Trying to harass the tanks. Maybe take out some of the flak panzers if I get lucky. And again, just take a look at the size of the map for the air forces. The corner of the map that the ground battle is going on is just one small part of the map. There are area bombing targets that can be taken out to help your team win. There's an enemy airfield that can be destroyed to help your team win. There's all sorts of things for the aircraft to be fighting over. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be going after the tanks all the time. Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can really do in these very, very limited little reserve aircraft. I'm just going to shoot up some anti-aircraft guns at first. When the test expands and you can start to use anything other than reserve aircraft, you're going to find that the aircraft are going to be able to, you know, if they're flown intelligently, are going to be able to support the ground forces a hell of a lot more. For example, all of the capture points are inside the ground forces battle area. So ground attack aircraft, you know, your Sturmovix, are going to be able to seriously hamper the enemy team's ability to capture those points, because when that capture counter is ticking up, you're just announcing to the enemy team, hello, we are sitting here at capture point B. Please come and bomb us. Please come and fire rockets at us. And intelligent ground attack pilots. You see, I am convinced that at this stage... Ooh, crap. I thought I'd missed that tree. I suck. But yes, once again, did a strafing run on a tank. Didn't appear to do any damage to him. More importantly, did not light him up as a target. So at the moment, you can't use aircraft as reconnaissance to spot targets for your ground forces. There he is in chat. Jingles, stop shooting me. Yeah, like my rifle caliber 7.92mm bullets are going to be any threat to a T-34. So yes, aircraft at the moment on the test largely ineffectual, and only really a threat to very, very thinly skinned light tanks and other aircraft. But you know, that's working as intended. The aircraft side of the whole ground-air interaction is not the focus of this phase of the test. They want people driving the tanks. Because you know what people are like. People could jump into Sturmovix, right, or HS-219Bs, and go around, you know, or even Yak-9s, and go around shooting up tanks with air-to-ground rockets or 37mm cannons. That's exactly what they would be doing. And they would get no ground forces testing done. It would just be people flying around in aircraft looking for easy targets on the ground. So that's not what the focus of this phase of the test is about. And I'm going to try to get the bombs here. There we go, there's a Panzer IV. No damage. 10 kilo bombs, you need direct hits. We've got some air up, but he's miles away. So I'm going to have another bombing run on this Panzer IV. No damage. No, I did hit him. I did hit him. But it was just a hit. No critical damage, nothing. You're just so ineffective in the reserve aircraft at the moment. It's fun, but it's not very effective. I'm going to see if I can find something that I can actually damage. Oh, Flak Panzer over there shooting at me. And again, you know, he can clearly see me, and I saw him sitting there on that hilltop, but not lit up as a target. People were asking, is it possible to shoot aircraft down with, you know, not Flak Panzers? Oh yes. Oh yes, very, very much so. I'm shooting that guy up again. Doing nothing. Look at that target I'm damaged. Yeah, rifle caliber machine guns. But yes, it is very, very possible to shoot an aircraft down if you're firing something that is not, you know, an anti-aircraft gun. Like that. I got shot down by a T-34. So, yeah, it's 100% possible. It's highly unlikely, but, oh my god. Well, it's only fair. I shot him up a lot. It's only fair he gets the chance to take me out. But, yeah, absolutely. Luckiest shot in the world. T-34 took me out with his 76mm gun. Actually, that's a point. One of the Russian, I don't know if you can get it for the T-34, but I know you definitely can load it for the KV-1. One of the 76mm shells is a shrapnel shell. And I was looking at the statistics of the shell, and the penetration is garbage. But it didn't occur to me until right now that that could be quite effective against aircraft, and if that's available for the T-34's 76mm gun as well, that could be what he hit me with. Of course, if he'd managed to actually get a direct shot with a high explosive or an armor-piercing shell, that would wreck a biplane like this as well. So, highly unlikely that you're going to hit an aircraft with a 76mm tank gun, but it's absolutely doable, as you just saw. And it's going to be a highlight. If that guy was, I hope that guy was recording, and that makes it up onto YouTube from his perspective, because that was an amazing shot. Taking out a biplane with a T-34. I mean, come on. So I'm going to see if I can find some light tanks or Flak Panzers to shoot up. But you know it's not going to end well. In fact, here, watch this. Now I spot a T-26, and there are two Flak Panzers with him. I'm going to pause the video here. Okay, so I'm taking shots at that T-26, and my fire is ineffective. I haven't spotted these two guys. They've been lit up by other ground forces. Now you can see the T-26 that I'm shooting at, and right behind him, over there at my 1 o'clock, there's a Flak Panzer. That Flak Panzer is not shooting at me. You can see the tracer coming in from directly ahead at my 12 o'clock. On the other side of the T-26 there is another Flak Panzer, but you see the rocks in front of him? He has not been spotted by our ground forces. So he is the one that I don't see who shoots my wing off. And there he is. Even though he was visible to me, was not lit up as a target. So, you know, as if you needed any further evidence, we've seen multiple examples of it all the way through this video. You can't use aircraft. At this stage of the test, you cannot use aircraft as reconnaissance to light up ground targets for the rest of your team. It does not work that way yet. But if you stop to think about it, in order for aircraft to not spot ground targets, that would have to have been something that they changed to the existing spotting mechanics. For one unit to not be able to spot another kind of unit, they would have had to have changed the way the game works in order to make that be the case. So it seems that that is in fact working exactly as intended. Now, while that may not be particularly realistic, it does make sense from a gameplay perspective. Imagine how difficult life would be as a tank driver if you had to worry not only about keeping terrain between yourself and likely enemy spotting positions, and keeping your tank angled against incoming fire, and taking advantage of terrain to avoid incoming fire, and you had to worry about unseen aircraft popping up over a ridgeline and lighting you up to all the enemy guns at the same time. I mean, realistic it may be, fun it probably wouldn't be.
Yes, a hit.
Got me a KV-1. Ah. And we see we've won this one almost entirely without any help from me. So there you go. Ground versus air, or air versus ground. Very, very limited interaction at the moment between aircraft and ground forces. Reserve aircraft are just not effective against anything other than very, very thinly armoured vehicles, like, well, your flak panzers, basically. And going after flak panzers, as you've seen, is very, very dangerous. Of course, when we get the chance to fly dedicated ground attack aircraft, or even regular fighter aircraft armed with cannons and heavier machine guns, that is all likely to change substantially. But that is not the focus of the test at the moment. At the moment, the focus is very, very heavily on driving the limited range of tanks that are currently available, and it seems to be going quite well. So in the next video, we're going to be looking at the Russian tanks. I think the Germans have had enough time in the spotlight. We're going to be looking at the T-26, the T-70, the T-34, and the KV-1. Hope you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. Plenty more coming. Catch you next time.